Hey guys, this is a video for a few quick tips for listing objects in our Maya scene in Python. The list command is probably one of the commands I use the most in Maya, as I find it really helpful for my tools, like adding noise to selected curves or scattering specific objects like only the meshes or only the lights in the scene. To set up the scene, I've just created 3 spheres and 2 lights, and I've just moved them around. We open up the script editor in a new Python shell. We'll start by just using the vanilla list command, and that's commands.ls with 2 parentheses. If you run this, we can see that this returns everything in the scene. The list has a ton of things, and a lot of these I almost never care about, like sequence manager or render partition. When you're listing objects in this scene, usually you're looking for something specific, like meshes or lights, or things that follow the same name pattern. We can make this ls more specific so that we only return what we really want by adding in more arguments. For example, we can narrow down this list to what we see in our outliner by only searching for DAG objects, and we can do this by adding the DAG equals true flag. If we run this, you can see that this now only returns what we see over here in our outliner. The situation that's probably most used in simple tools and scripts, of mine at least, is getting the selected objects you have in a scene. To do this, we can add the selection equals true flag. I'll select everything, and if I run that, you can see that it returns exactly what I have selected. If I deselect this sphere and only select the shape node, you'll see that that shape gets returned rather than the transformation node. This can be a bit of a downfall with using the selection flag, as you don't always know what the user will select. Generally, when I use the selection flag in a tool, I usually have a follow-up function to make sure that either the transformation or the mesh is selected. And that's because some of other Maya commands require that it be one or the other. One more thing to note about the selection flag is that in Maya, selecting large amounts of objects really slows down the scene in the tool. In scenes that I have had hundreds or even thousands of meshes, like in bird scenes with tons of feathers, I usually use the ls flag without selecting anything in my tool at all. And I usually use a specific name search or type checking. So just keep in mind when using the selection flag, the selection quantity in mind. Moving on, now let's say I want only to select objects that have a specific name pattern. Now let's find objects with sphere in the name. We can add a search string in our else statement. You put it before any flags that has an equal sign in it. Otherwise, you'll get a keyword argument error. So if we want to search for everything of sphere, we would do psphere with an asterisk. And the asterisk we would call a wildcard, and that allows us to get everything that starts with psphere and then has any letter or number after that. So if we run this, we get psphere 1, 2, and 3. You can put wildcards at any position in the string. You can also have multiple of them. So we can actually replace the p, that psphere, with a wildcard and change the name of psphere 3 to other sphere. And if we run that, you can see it still returns all the spheres. We deselect psphere 2 and run this again. You can see that returns psphere 1 and other sphere, as it's still obeying the rule we gave it of only getting selected objects. Chaining arguments, like the name search and the selection, can really make the ls function more efficient for your use, and I highly recommend it. Now let's say we only want to return visible objects. We can do this by adding visible equals true. And I've used the visible flag in production environments because a lot of times when you import a character, it has a ton of props. And from the grooming side, I never really care about the props, and they're usually hidden anyways. So I'll just hide psphere 1, and if you run this, now you see that only the objects with sphere in the name that's selected and that are visible are returned. Now let's say you only want to turn lights in the scene rather than the meshes. I'll rename the ambient light to white sphere, and if you run this command again, we can see that our lights and our sphere are returned because they all have sphere in the name. We can add in a type flag to filter out these types. Types can be transform, mesh, lights, camera, then a few more. Since we're looking for lights, I'll add the flag type equals and in quotes light. You'll see that I get actually nothing. This is because I am actually selecting the transform node of the light, so that's the gotcha again from the selection flag. So either I can go down and select the light shape node, or I can actually just remove the selection equals true flag, and then you'll see now I get the light sphere shape returned. There are a lot more commands with the list, and I recommend that you look up the My API for it because it might have a flag that better suits your needs, but let me know if there is something else you want me to go over with the list command, and I'll be happy to do that.